All right, we're back with part two here on this picture. So let's review here. I think, like I said again, this is the first time I've ever used Lightroom. All right, so show original. Okay, got it. As you can see, I've never used it because it's telling me stuff. Showing original, great. Okay, there's the original, and there's where we left it again. We took the highlights down, we dropped the shadows, we color balanced to get that touch of green that we see in here out. There's a little yellow in here from the flash. We added blue to offset that. And then I brought the vibrance down a little bit to kind of get a bit of cool, kind of more of a silver look. All right, so that's where we are right now. Here's what we did. Highlights, shadows, moved the whites, adjusted the grayscale here, did our color corrections. So let's minimize those and let's see what the next button has here. Effects. All right, so again, this is good. So here we have effects that are found in the majority of photo editing software. If you're doing this like on a phone, you might not have these with the basic software that's on there, but you can get Lightroom on your phone if you want. So we'll go through these because they are available to most people. I'm trying to keep this basic, so we're not going to do crazy Photoshop stuff. We'll save that for another day. So let's get this started here. So texture. The best way to figure out what something does is to do this. Ooh, or this. All right. So the texture here on Lightroom is pretty slick. Let's see if I can find a way to, no, never mind. There we go. I wanted to zoom in. When you're working on these type of effects, you want to work in close to see the impact. If you're looking at the whole screen like I just was, you lose some of the problems that can crop up. All right, so again, shot this on a TG4. That's a really nice and sharp image there. So the texture we can see as we push this to the right, it is adding, you can see really in the background, it's sharpening things up, basically. If we go too far, it's adding a lot of noise in here. And it makes these guys look fake. So let's bring it down, 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 down. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, clarity. Again, let's just get an idea of what the effect does. And sometimes what I like to do is I'll just push something up and then I'll bring it down until I'm satisfied with the results. As you can see on the clarity, this is now blowing out a lot of our exposure here. So we're just going to keep creeping this thing down, down, down. I'm even going to go the other way on that clarity a little bit, it looks like. I like it somewhere around there. Dehaze. This is something that Adobe has added relatively recently. It used to be a technique known as like spot contrast adjustments. They were extremely powerful, but they were not easy to do. They have basically coded that into here, and I think this is, as far as effects go, aside from the basic adjustment on color and whatnot in the exposure settings, this is probably the most powerful one on here. So as you can see on the dehaze, it creates, it's all localized contrast basically. So there's the range there. I like to push it up a little bit here. It makes that background darker, makes the fish pop out more. All right, and let's just fit. All right, so there's where we are now after these effects. And now we have vignette. It's kind of self-explanatory what that is. That one's up to you. Once you get into these tools, you're drifting more and more into true post-processing as opposed to just developing your image. Again, I think this still falls within the realm of most competitions because this is something that a JPEG, when it's created, will have done to it to some extent. Look at a RAW file, zoom in on it. Look at if you shoot the RAW and the JPEG together, look at the two files together, and basically you'll see the camera has done a lot of what we've just done. But once you get into vignetting, that's an artistic choice. And it definitely is not something that cameras do in the camera. So, I mean, I like to add just a touch so that you can't even really tell. Keeps the focus here on the center, darken the edges a little bit. That's all completely up to you. All right, you get into detail here. Sharpening and noise reduction. Sharpening is dangerous, okay? Let's go back here into one-to-one. With sharpening, see the noise? Sharpening creates noise. It's trying to make things that are slightly fuzzy have a hard edge. And what happens is the software has to start to guess. Or in the case of this empty blue background, it doesn't know it's not supposed to sharpen that, and it tries to. As you can see here, it's just a mess. So what I prefer to do on sharpening is nothing. But this, I guess it was at 40 before. I don't know what that means. Noise reduction. This one I do like. It will take the detail and some of the sharpening out of your image. But what we want to do is, you can see the noise here in the blue in the background. I want to clean that up. So we're going to start pushing the noise reduction. And you can see now that noise is gone. Look at the difference there to there. You leave a little bit of noise in there. I leave a touch because otherwise it looks plastic, looks fake. Color noise reduction. This is the same thing, but it's only focused on the noise created in the different colors and tones. You can see here. So watch in the areas where there's color. You can see it's a more subtle tool, and honestly, unless you have some really weird situation, leave it at that. All right, so there's things here. There's optics. This is cool. You can remove chromatic aberration, enable lens corrections. This is more advanced stuff, so we're going to leave out of it. It's really powerful, but we're going to skip it. And this is transforming the geometry of pictures. We're not going to go there. All right, so let's go back here. So here's our image now. As you can see, though, it's gotten dark in all that we did. So the last step in basic post-processing is to go back to the first step that you had. So let's go back up here to light. And now the whole thing's gotten dark. Now I'm going to come in with these big sledgehammers and adjust the exposure and contrast. So we're going to push the exposure just a touch, right about there. And the contrast, and it's gotten pretty contrasty. I'm going to come in and drop the contrast just a touch. At the end of my process on every image I'm doing, this is the last thing I do. Usually have to bump the exposure a little bit, and usually have to drop the contrast a little bit, because everything else increases those. So I think that's a pretty cool final image. There we go. We started with that. We ended with that. That. We didn't do anything that I would consider to be digital art. This is all just basic, simple post, and these days a lot of cameras can do just as good as this inside the camera, so I don't feel like you're cheating if you do this. So hopefully this was cool, and let's do another picture in the next video.